Hello, everybody. Rush the Zeppelin here once again. Today, I'm actually going to be starting on a video series detailing libertarianism and also some of the reasons why I believe in the libertarian philosophy. Here in America, we are currently embroiled in a presidential primary season with, of course, the candidate Bernie Sanders, who is primarily right now running on a platform of universal health care for all. So I figured this would be a pertinent subject to bring up. I certainly understand on some level the current desire to want to institute a universal healthcare system here in America. In fact, I do have to admit that 8 years ago, whenever Obama was running on a very similar platform, I was actually about to vote for him until pretty much weeks before the election. Reason number one for this is the lack of interstate competition here within America. Sadly, health insurance in this country is very much unlike other insurance products, such as car insurance or life insurance, in that you cannot actually sell your product across state lines. Therefore, you actually have to create separate companies within each state that you want to operate in. This tends to have a limiting factor on the amount of companies that actually operate within each state of the United States, and especially has a limiting factor on smaller companies that might not have the money to do a completely new startup in another state from their original home state. This leads us into reason number two, which is actually the fact that for decades now, state legislatures have actually been granting monopolies and cartels, mostly to obviously larger insurance companies. This obviously has the effect of grossly limiting competition within a state, thereby further reducing any kind of competition within pricing, thereby generally keeping prices quite high. To hammer home this point, it is estimated that about 72% of all metropolitan areas within the country have absolutely no competition between insurance companies. In fact, there are actually 17 states within the United States that have one insurance company that controls at least 50% of the market, and a staggering 45 states actually have only two companies that control 50% or more of the market. Health insurance within this country is hardly what you could really even call health insurance anymore. It would actually be more accurate to describe it as a bit of a pay ahead socialized type healthcare plan, especially with the Obamacare mandates that actually require even men to pay for things like maternity care and women's birth control, as well as gynecological type procedures. More traditional types of insurance, such as car insurance or health insurance, operate on a model actually of individual risk assessment based off of an individual's history. Basically, it's only supposed to cover statistically predictable but unexpected types of catastrophic events. This would be the reason why, for example, car insurance doesn't cover things like regularly scheduled maintenance like oil changes. Another reason would be the wage freezes that were instituted during World War II that basically barred employers from being able to give their employees raises. In order to circumvent this, they actually instituted benefits programs such as health insurance. And because of that, they actually limited consumers' choice and basically locked their employees into the employer provided plans. In 1913, the Federal Reserve was created by Congress, and this has kept us on a slow and steady cycle of inflation ever since. This has the effect of making products such as health savings accounts less feasible than they would be in, say, in an economy where you have a good, healthy mix of inflation and deflation, or even just straight up deflation, where you actually have the money that you're putting into said account actually increasing in value instead of slowly decreasing over the years. Health savings accounts in a deflationary environment would actually be really beneficial to younger and healthier people like me that don't necessarily need to see the doctor yet. We could start putting in money early, and by the time that we actually do need it to be able to perform any kind of major medical procedures, it will have appreciated a good amount. Another benefit to having these types of health savings accounts is that you don't actually have the large middleman fees that you tend to have in health insurance these days. Next, we have the multitude of hidden taxes that are contained within health insurance these days. This includes a veritable Bible's worth of regulations placed upon health insurance companies, the coverage for uninsured, which, by the way, was actually there before Obamacare. You could actually go to hospitals as someone who was uninsured, and basically everybody else picked up the cost. And then you also have, specifically nowadays, you have a lot of taxes on things like medical devices, actually. And just like any financial burden placed upon any company, these costs are usually passed down onto the end consumer, especially because most businesses are generally operating on fairly thin profit margins. In this particular case, a lot of health insurance companies are operating on about 6 to 8% margin. One particular problem that most people actually don't seem to realize about is also the zoning laws that basically restrict the amount of hospitals that can go on the ground in any given area. And this, of course, restricts competition, especially among emergency type surgeries. One really big problem in my mind is also the licensing requirements that were enacted quite a long time ago by the AMA. And this actually has the effect of generally limiting the amount of doctors, which of course limits competition. These licensing requirements were actually enacted in a time when healthcare was actually so cheap that doctors had to run to Congress and complain that they were not making enough money. A huge issue that is actually more in effect of the reduced competition within the field is the lack of transparency on pricing, especially whenever it comes to, say, emergency medical procedures. And of course, transparency within pricing is, in my mind, a very vital part of just about any free market system. If you actually want to see someone who actually does have transparency within their pricing, you can actually check out the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, where on their website they actually list the prices of most of their major procedures, but the only thing that isn't included within these prices is the diagnostic fees. To wrap things up, probably one of the biggest reasons we're actually not in a free market system is actually the fact that it's estimated about 51 cents of every dollar spent in healthcare is actually provided by the government. Therefore, in effect, we actually have more than a half socialized system already. And that pretty much wraps things up for this video. I hope you enjoyed my informative presentation on the top 10 reasons why US healthcare is not free market. As always, I encourage you to leave your comments below, like, share, and subscribe. And this is Rush the Zeppelin signing out.